You guys, thank you very much.
Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and call the regular meeting to order at 6:01. This is a regular meeting for the Matsu Borough Assembly on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
I will. Tim Hale.
Here.
Stephanie Nowers may be able to call in. I don't expect Dee McKee. Robert Yunt.
Here.
Moki 2.
Here.
Dimitri Fonoff.
On the phone, here.
And Madam Mayor, I'm not sure about Assemblymember Bernier, and you do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Is there any thing that members would like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing no changes, then the agenda is approved as presented. You'll all please rise. Moki, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's not what I want like this.
Did you want me to come down with you?
I think I'm fine, but thank you. Ready? You want to come? Yeah, all of you can come? Some of you can come? However you want to do it. Hi, Tori. Want to do it? Okay. All right. This one's going to be yours to keep. So I'm going to read this one, but it's the same thing. So you can hold that, okay? Whereas Kabuki syndrome was first described in Japan in 1967 and has become a formal diagnosis in 1981. Thank you. It is a rare genetic disorder occurring in approximately 1 in 32,000 births worldwide and is not limited to a specific race or ethnicity. There are at least 7 individuals currently residing in Alaska. And whereas children and adults affected by the disease experience a variety of symptoms, some which may include mild to moderate intellectual impairment, growth delays, low muscle tone, feeding difficulties, heart defects, and visual and or hearing impaired and autistic-like behaviors. And whereas a lack of knowledge and understanding of this disorder plays a significant role in the overcoming number of undiagnosed cases. Whereas October is Awareness Month and October 23rd is the Awareness Day, where of all things Kabuki, a nonprofit patient advocacy organization, promotes awareness and provides educational resources and support to those who are touched by it. I, therefore, Edna DeVries, Mayor of the Matsu Borough, do proclaim Monday, October 23rd, 2023 as Kabuki Syndrome Awareness Day.
I am here, boss.
Assemblymember Bernier, was that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Assemblyperson Manir, what time did you come on just now? Or
6:02. 6:02.
6:02. Okay, thank you. Just so we have that for the record.
Thank you.
Is anybody else joined us online? Okay, guess not. There are no minutes being presented. Agency reports from the city. Don't see anybody from any of the cities. School district. We had the groundbreaking today for Matsu. Maybe you were going to say that under your manager's report, so.
Please go ahead.
Okay, we did have the groundbreaking today for Matsu Central, and we had some students there as well as 5 out of the school board, I think, and it was very nice. It was streamed live on Facebook because a lot of the students, they asked them not to come just because of the limit on parking and stuff, but it was very well attended and everybody is very happy. One thing you said that we've done 9 schools in the last 10 years. And of course, I think we probably set a record since this one is fully paid for. So that's a great thing. So that's all I know about the school district. And I don't see Todd is here. And I'll jokingly say, I think maybe Todd's mad at me because I did introduce him today. And that's just kidding. It's not that, it's for all. And I think there was a joint school board and committee on school issues meeting, but no report. Is that correct, sir? Okay. Are there any public relations report? Okay. Mr. Manager, report, sir.
I'll try to be brief as well, Madam Mayor. I've got 2 quick updates. The first is really just a thanks to our emergency services staff and all of our community partners and volunteers. The Emergency Preparedness Expo this past weekend at the Menard was a success. Estimated attendance of about 1,800 to 2,000 folks, 72 participating organizations and businesses, approximately 75 youth poster contest entries. So whoever wins that will be coming to
Right.
visit the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Probably about 40 volunteers and 30 borough employees to put that on. So that's an annual event. It's a great way to highlight and reinforce awareness around emergency preparedness, especially as we enter into another winter season. So just appreciate all the efforts of the staff. Talon Bovey especially, she kind of heads that up and coordinates that for us every year. So just wanted to acknowledge that this evening.
Good.
As far as the second update, Port McKenzie Rail Extension, or PMRE, as we know, we had a special meeting on September 12th, a special assembly meeting on September 12th to talk about that subject. At that meeting, we asked the Alaska Railroad Corporation for support in updating the cost estimate to complete the rail project. And to provide any insight on the viability of having both rail and a road in the existing right-of-way. ARRC provided an update last week. They believe they can have an updated cost estimate by a third party before Thanksgiving. They said the civil work analysis is less complicated. However, the estimate for laying track warrants a closer look and evaluation of alternatives. The viability of rail and road coexisting within this corridor, as asked by Senator Schauer, is not clear. The rail embankment was not designed for this, and the corridor would need to be widened significantly if this were to come to pass. They said significant bridge work would be necessary for the same reason. However, they said it is not insurmountable if funding were to be made available. This conversation, and this is why I bring it up tonight, this conversation will be coming back to the Assembly on November 21st as you consider our upcoming state legislative priorities. We will be introducing our federal and state legislative priorities on October 17th, which is the next regular meeting. We will schedule it for a public hearing on November 21st. So it will sit out there on the public record for 1 month. So the public will have an opportunity to provide input on all the priorities that you will be considering. My plan currently is to introduce a resolution that has a road on it and not a rail on it. So if that's what gets introduced and the assembly were to change that, you would have to make an amendment. I'm operating off of the last resolution this body passed, which had a rail to a road conversion. And I'm saying all this because I know there are folks out there that do not agree with this concept. So this conversation will be coming back again. I know the Valley delegation has expressed concerns about not completing the rail. And there are some other conversations taking place to explore federal railroad grant opportunities, both with the Alaska Railroad Corporation and members of our state delegation. So we'll continue to chase that. As I mentioned, the cost estimate should be in on or about November 21st. So this conversation is coming. If you have thoughts or perspectives on how you would like to see those things introduced, I'm happy to discuss that, but I wanted to get it on the record. So if you had more questions or wanted more opportunities to discuss the topic, now is a good time to get started so that you're not caught off guard by that when that resolution is introduced at the next regular meeting. That's all I had, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Any questions of the manager's report? Okay. Mr. Attorney, report, sir?
Nothing really to report, just to advise the assembly. A new attorney started in our office yesterday. Erin Dooling is her name. She's in the office there that's been empty for a few months now, actually since the beginning of the year. Labor market is tough. Ms. Dooling comes to us from the state of Maine. She worked for the legislature as a staff attorney to the legislature for quite a few years. She's been practicing law for 11 years, I believe now, and we're thrilled to have her, and we'll be shoveling work her way. So stop by, say hi, and that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, report.
The clerk's report is in your red folder with the upcoming meeting schedule, the quasi-judicial report, and pertinent election dates. And also attached is next Tuesday's Joint Assembly Planning Commission meeting agenda.
Okay. Any questions of the clerk? Okay. The next item is citizens and other correspondence. Are there any comments on any of the citizens or other correspondence? Okay, hearing none, then they are presented. Madam Clerk, would you read the IMs, please?
IM 23216, reporting procurements made under MSB 38320 and MSB 38290 related to severe flooding in the Talkeetna area.
Are there any comments on the IM? Hearing none, then they are presented. There are no persons to be heard. Next item is public hearings.
Ordinance 2390, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $479,600 from the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration for Safe Streets for All Action Plan Project, with accompanying resolution 2394, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget for Safe Streets for All Action Plan Project, amending the budget for Community Transportation Grant Match Project, and authorizing the manager to enter into an agreement with the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Staff? Hi, Shen.
Finance Director Cheyenne Heindel, to the Mayor, to the Assembly. Before you is an accept and appropriate of $479,600 with an associated $119,900 in match. This is for Safe Streets for All and is to be utilized as non-federal match for our community transportation projects.
Okay, any questions of staff? Okay, thank you. I'll now open the public hearing on ordinance 23-090 and resolution 23-094. No sign-up sheet, okay. Anyone that would like to testify on this legislation, you're welcome to testify at this time. Okay, do we have any? We do not have anybody online. One last chance. Anybody want to address the assembly on either one of these pieces of legislation? Okay, seeing none, then I will close the public hearing. Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt ordinance 23090 and accompanying resolution 23094.
Discussion by the assembly. Is there any objection to the legislation passing? Hearing no objection, the legislation passes. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 23091, an ordinance amending MSB 1110, unauthorized encroachments in order to reduce mailing costs. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Staff?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the Assembly. Alex Strawn, Planning Director for the Borough. So this ordinance is, it modifies Title 11 of Borough Code, which deals with unauthorized encroachments within the right-of-way. It's a cost-saving measure. It's a very simple ordinance. It makes it so that if there is an unauthorized encroachment, instead of sending a certified mail return receipt, which costs a little over $8, we'll be able to send just letters with a first-class mail, so just the cost of postage in an envelope, essentially. We do receive a lot of unauthorized encroachments complaints throughout the year, whether it's somebody putting up a fence in the right-of-way or gating off a right-of-way, or they're modifying the road in a manner that causes drainage impacts or something like that. We do receive a lot of complaints year-round. However, the majority of our complaints that we do receive are during the winter months, when people start pushing snow around within the rights of way. And I know that this is a kind of a hot topic right now, so I want to discuss a little bit how we're approaching it this year. There are a lot of times where we actually send out a mailing to the entire neighborhood because everybody's pushing snow into a big pile, or everybody's sort of causing these violations within the rights of way. So we do send out a lot of mailings. We do intend to this year to be a little bit more proactive and go to talk to some of the bigger snowplow. We're going to try to find all the snowplow operators that do it on a commercial basis and sort of let them know what our guidelines are and what the law is regarding removal of snow within the rights of way. We also want to reach out in social media and even rental companies that are renting out snow removal equipment and things like that. So we're trying to get proactive, but we're still going to have this need to send letters. A lot of times it's a lot of letters. And so this will actually save us quite a bit of money in adopting this ordinance.
Questions of staff? Okay, thank you. I'll open the public hearing now. Anyone is welcome to testify to the Assembly on ordinance 23-091. No sign-up sheet. Nobody online? Okay, one last chance. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt ordinance 23091. If I may speak briefly to it.
Yes, you may, sir. Go ahead.
I think we're all excited to see that we're being proactive. We know that we're probably going to have to issue some warnings for homeowner snow this year. And then also anytime that we can save money, it's a good thing. And first class is plenty good enough mail system for this. It doesn't need to be certified. So great job to the manager and his team for the changes. And I hope it passes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Yes, Assemblyperson 2, go ahead.
I'm going to go on the homeowner snow and not so much just encroachments of stuff and fences and all that stuff. I think that we should be really very active on social media and tell the folks about the problems that pushing snow across the road or onto other people's property or wherever. Tell them what the fines are. Maybe even tell them how to properly plow the snow in their driveways. Just because the plow truck comes over and fills the driveway full of snow doesn't mean that they get to push that snow back out into the road, and that there may be a fine associated with them pushing it out into the road. So I am totally for educating the citizens on the proper way of plowing snow and letting them know that a fine will come later if they push it out into the road.
Further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Mayor?
Online.
Yes, this is Ron, and I fully agree with Assembly Member 2 that the public should be made well aware through social media, ad campaign, some type of really get it out there. So let them know it's costing the borough money. If they don't want to be paying high taxes, this is some ways we can cut it. So let's all be active on this. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Further discussion on the ordinance by the Assembly? Okay, is there any objection to approving ordinance 23-091? Hearing no objection, the legislation passes. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance 23092, an ordinance accepting and appropriating additional national opioid settlement funding totaling $52,118.87 from the Manufacturers and Traders Trust Company for opioid settlement relief. With accompanying resolution 23097, a resolution amending the scope of work and budget for opioid settlement relief. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Staff report?
Through the mayor to the Assembly, Cheyenne Heindel, Finance Director. Before you is an accept and appropriate of additional opioid money in the amount of $52,118.87. This makes the total received to date $343,782.97. And this will be part of the funds that we will be implementing a grant program and distributing later.
Okay. Questions to staff? Okay, thank you. I'll now open the public hearing on ordinance 23-092. Anyone is welcome to testify to the Assembly on this ordinance. No sign-up sheet. Nobody online. One last chance for those here. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Deputy Mayor.
I move to adopt ordinance 23092 and accompanying resolution 23097.
Okay, anyone, Assembly discussion?
One quick question. Will
Yeah.
this go towards, we set up a group of folks to help us use this money? Is that going to go into the same pool? I assume it will, but.
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Yount. This will go into the pool. We are in the process of developing a grant program. So once we get the terms of the grants put into place, we will be opening it up for applications and distributing the money annually as we have money.
Awesome, thank you.
Further discussion by the Assembly? Is there any objection to passing ordinance 23-092 and resolution 23-097? Okay, hearing no objection, the legislation passes. Madam Clerk?
Ordinance 23093, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $1 million in additional grant funding, reappropriating $250,000 from area-wide funds to satisfy the required grant match, and authorizing the manager to enter into an amendment number 1 of the agreement from the United States Department of Commerce, Economic Development Administration for the Port McKenzie Pile Sleeves and Roll-On Roll-Off Cargo Ramp project with accompanying resolution 23098, a resolution approving the amended scope of work and budget for the Port McKenzie Pile Sleeves and the Roll-On Roll-Off Cargo Ramp project. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press +3.
Staff report?
Through the mayor to the Assembly, Cheyenne Heindel, Finance Director. Before you again is an accept and appropriate for $1 million plus an additional $250,000 for grant match. This funding was additional money that came from EDA and will be utilized on the Pile Sleeve project. And if there's anything left over on the roll-on, roll-off ramp or the barge dock, if we are able to change it to that.
Okay, questions to staff? I will now open the public hearing on ordinance 23-093 and resolution 23-098. No sign-up sheet. Anyone would like to address the Assembly on this piece of legislation? Nobody online, sir? Okay. One last chance. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. And Assemblyperson 2.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-093 and resolution 23098.
Okay, discussion by the Assembly. Is there any objection to the legislation passing? Seeing and hearing none, the legislation passes.
Ordinance 23095, an ordinance accepting and $4,775,813.21 for 2023 funding under the American Rescue Plan, Local Assistance, and Tribal Consistency Fund from the United States Treasury Department with accompanying resolution 23-100, a resolution approving the scope of work and budget for the Port McKenzie barge ramp. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
Staff? Yeah, okay.
Thank you,
Yes,
Madam
sir.
Mayor. I'm going to invite Dave Griffin up, our Port Operations Manager, as I discuss kind of the financing piece, and then he'll dive in a little bit more details to why we're making this recommendation. So in September of last year, the U.S. Department of Treasury announced the launch of the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund. The American Rescue Plan Act appropriated $2 billion across fiscal years 22 and 23 to provide payments to eligible revenue-sharing counties for use on any governmental purpose except for lobbying activity. So the Matsu Borough received a total allocation of just over $9.5 million in 2 equal parts. The initial award for 2022 has been received and was allocated as follows. $3.4 million was allocated to Matsu Central School construction, which the mayor mentioned. We broke ground on that earlier today. $250,000 to the J. Nolfi Park improvements. And the third item was to put $1.1 million in a transportation match account because the borough has applied for federal grants through the State Department of Transportation. And if we are awarded even a portion of those, we'll have to have a non-federal match. So we set money aside for that in anticipation of those grants or other opportunities that we are in the mix for. This legislation that's before you tonight will allocate the 2023 portion of $4,775,813 for designing and constructing a Port McKenzie barge ramp. This funding can be used, and I want to be very clear with the Assembly on this. This funding can be used for any purpose except lobbying, such as more transportation match funding. We are recommending this, or I'm recommending this tonight for Port McKenzie, as we need to make changes to generate new business opportunities. This approach would utilize federal funding, likely with some additional local appropriations, depending on where the design goes and what those cost estimates work themselves out to be. And additional information's in the IM that's on the record tonight that kind of talks about how we arrived at that estimate, or the estimate we're working towards. The borough has applied for a port infrastructure development program grant. We're awaiting feedback on that application. We also are continuing to explore other grant opportunities. So what I'm recommending is, I think we talked about it on September 12th when we talked about the Port McKenzie Rail Extension Project, is the borough needs to do things that are within our control, and we have the ability to influence to make changes at Port McKenzie. Some things, such as PMRE, we don't really influence that. We're reliant solely on state funding or funding in general. Let's call it a federal grant if we want to explore that option. This is an opportunity to take federal funding, apply it to some improvements at Port McKenzie that would arguably generate new business opportunities. That's kind of where I'm going to turn it over to Dave and let him talk about some of those, and give the Assembly an opportunity to have some dialogue and ask some questions, if you desire, as to why we're recommending this. We think this is a better approach for doing it, and arguably I would say it's probably more palatable for the community. I think this fiscal year we're making our last debt payment on Port McKenzie, so we'll be out of debt completely with the port here sometime this fiscal year. So we think this is a reasonable way to move forward to apply federal funding that came, frankly, as a product of COVID. These are post-COVID dollars, to try to create some new opportunities for Port McKenzie. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Dave, and he'll talk you through a little bit of that. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask them.
Hi. There we go.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the Assembly. My name is David Griffin, and I'm the Port Operations Manager for Port McKenzie. And to build up on what Manager Brown was talking about, this project, this ramp, would expand the capabilities of the port. As most of us know, the port has been functioning primarily as a bulk commodity export, deep draft port, and we do have more and more activity that's taking place out there. A mixture of the larger ships at the deep draft dock. We had the salt ship this year. We've been getting the cement ship. There's discussions about bringing in some additional resources for activity that's taking place on the North Slope. And with that, we're also seeing an uptick in barge activity. We've had, just in the last month, we've had 8 different barge landings. And so what we're starting to hear from the maritime industry in the Upper Cook Inlet and Kinnick Arm is they would really like a place to store the boats, inspect the boats, do maintenance, things like that. And so this ramp would allow us to take part in that type of business. And so it would expand the capabilities of the port and really round it out. By developing this new piece of infrastructure, we would be meeting the needs of the local barge operators that work in Cook Inlet. We would also be accommodating landing craft, so folks would come up and better facilitate break bulk cargo and freight operations. It's an opportunity to reach business that is currently facing some frustration from congestion in some of the other ports, primarily Seward and Homer. And there's also we've heard from some local business owners that there is no place on the west side of Cook Inlet to launch boats. And so there's some boat manufacturers that would be very interested in using this facility so that they could launch boats, do boat repairs for fishing vessels, tugs, and also just recreational vessels. So, and with that, if there are any questions, please let me know.
Does somebody
you.
have any questions of staff?
I do, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
So, I was talking with a concrete batch plant here in the valley and asked them where they were getting their cement, and they're hauling it out of Anchorage. And I asked them about, hauling it out of Point Back, and their biggest problem was the road going out there. The amount of time it was taken, and was wondering if there was anything, updates, can we use any of this money as far as fixing the road going out there? Maybe increasing the travel, or decreasing the travel time for the consumers, in that way to generate some more business.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Bernier, this is the manager. So I'm going to talk, if I understood your question correctly, it's related to truck time between the port and, let's say, the core area of the valley, like the Parks Highway. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great question. Love talking about this. So the borough actually has a project to make improvements to Point McKenzie Road, mileposts 0 through 7, right? That's probably one of the worst segments of road down there. So the borough's already actively working on a project to make improvements there. DOT was out there making some culvert improvements this summer. Obviously, KGB's under construction. That's still kind of a tough way around. If you run up Point McKenzie Road, up KGB, across Vine, and over to the Parks Highway, that is one of the reasons we brought the rail to road conversion forward, is it would create a more direct line between Port McKenzie and the Parks Highway that would serve essentially as a highway. I mean, it is a direct route. It would be built for larger loads. And that is exactly one of the reasons we brought that idea forward, is to reduce the truck time and make it a more clean route between the Parks Highway just north of Houston and Port McKenzie. So even if that doesn't happen, we are obviously looking at other options to improve the transportation network in that area. But that is one of the reasons why we think a rail-to-road conversion could be a good thing.
Further questions or to staff?
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, I will then go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 23-095. Anybody? No sign-up sheet, I guess. Okay, anybody on? Yes,
You'll have to press the button to turn on the microphone.
And state your name, Travis.
Hello, I'm Travis. I live in Palmer, and I have some questions about the port. you've talked about thinking about repurposing the rail to a regular road. Well, I have a question about that. Even if it's repurposed to a road and it gets busy enough, do you think there'll be? Do you think it would be? Would you also thinking about building another rail line, to it once traffic builds up, and also um, where the goods are coming in from Point McKenzie, they'll probably also want to go into Anchorage. So they have also plans of maybe building a bridge to Anchorage to reduce travel time. Questions like that.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. And I think Dave would probably be available afterwards, Travis. Dave would be available afterwards to talk to you. And so he has the answers. Okay. Thank you, Travis. Anyone else that would like to testify on ordinance 23-095? Okay. Yes.
Hello, I'm Sandra Krieger. I have just a suggestion. Listening to the complaints by the cement manufacturer, et cetera, has anyone considered subsidizing some of those kind of companies to come to this side so that we're not transporting these goods to Anchorage, so that we're bringing the companies to the valley rather than hauling these goods out of here?
I'll refer you to the same person. You can get in line there. Thank you. Any other testimony? Do we have anybody online, Caleb? No. Okay. One last chance. No. Okay. I'll close the public hearing and Assembly Person 2.
I move to adopt ordinance 23-095 and resolution 23-100.
Okay. Discussion by the Assembly. Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to? Okay. All right. Deputy Mayor.
It is a frustrating drive out there right now for anybody trying to do it, but Connect's getting upgraded drastically. Point McKenzie Road is a bunch. Our next road package that we're going to put before the voters has some improvements for that road. We need to get more business out there, and this does that. So this gives the ability to do that. Last year I had one of our big suppliers in the state who does work in all parts of the state ready to sign a basically a lifetime agreement, which would have brought us tens of millions of dollars, but we couldn't get it done without one of these docks. And so, and that's just one person. This really opens the door to a lot more opportunities. We also know we need roads out here. We could use this money for a federal match on roads, but we've got good plans moving forward. We've done some amazing things on roads these last 3 years. So I do think this is the best play for the money. The port is doing phenomenal compared to what it was just a short time ago. And I think we want to keep the momentum going, and this is how we do it. So good job by the manager for bringing this forward.
Further discussion? Okay. Is there any objection to the legislation passing? Hearing no objection, the legislation passes. The next item on our agenda is audience participation, and we do have a sign-up sheet. So the first person is Travis.
I'm back again.
Okay.
Okay. Last time I was here, I talked about, recycling opportunities in the borough. And recently, I was in Willow. Today, I was in Willow, and there was a waste transfer site, but there's not much opportunity for recycling. And I was thinking that, for all the communities to have waste transfer sites, they should have recycle bins so that they could, haul recycling out. And also another idea that I thought of of is having a compost pile, you know, because because people produce a lot of food waste is going to waste, and what better way to repurpose it than composting, because it can be used, you can, you know, and there's also another economic advantage. People can make a business out of selling compost, and then you can also make a business out of recycling, you know, with scrap yards. You can turn metal and to repurpose it to other stuff, you know. And also recently with China now not accepting any more recycling from the United States, this would be a good opportunity to have an industry where we can, you know, to fill that to fill that need in there. So these are I'm having all these ideas, and also you're talking about also with funding. I've also mentioned it to City Council just after it ended, and it just occurred to me, why not try Bitcoin mining, you know, stuff like that. So you can use I think one Bitcoin's worth over $50,000. So if you mine that enough, you can have millions of dollars. So it's just a suggestion that I have. So that's all I have. Okay, I'll be back soon.
Okay, Travis, if you would just state your name, we know who you are and we see you, but people listening in may not.
I'm Travis.
Thank you. Okay, Jackie?
Madam Mayor and Assembly, my name is Jackie Goforth. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'm speaking to you again about the library books. And I want you to know that the policy, I'm asking again to please have a committee of non-biased people review the policy and see why it is so 100% biased toward the librarians. The book we discussed is called Sold. It is literally about a 12 to 13-year-old who is sold into sex trafficking. And for the entire book, she's traumatized, raped, drugged, beaten. It's impossible to describe how traumatic this read is. Now, I spoke for 5 minutes because that's what the policy allows. And then the librarian speaks for 5 minutes. And then the library committee speaks about it. But the library committee is formed completely of librarians and librarian board members. And they speak all about how wonderful the book is and all about the good reviews and all about everything. And not one of them gave me time to rebut what they said, because this book has been on the top 10 banned books in the United States for the last 3 years. It tied for 7 in 21-22, and it's tied for 6th in 22-23. There's a reason why it shouldn't go to young adults. It is a very traumatizing read. There is no redeeming value to it. I'm sorry, adults might need this information, but it doesn't even have a satisfactory ending. But I think the policy about how they gain books is at fault too. I really want to speak to this. This is how they pick the books. Does it present potential relevance to the community needs? Suitability of subject and reading level for the intended audience? Suitability of format? Does it present potential relevance to the community needs? Hey, that's another one. Importance of the document to the times, reputation or significance of the author, positive reviews, positive critics, relationship to existing materials in the collection. Is it within the budget? Is it available from other lending sources? Insufficient materials available on the same subject. Is the author or illustrator local? Does it enhance a specific collection within the libraries? Does it have merit of literary and artistic, accuracy of content, popularity with library patrons? But they forgot here on children's and young adult collections. They need to provide material for youth in a variety of formats to meet the recreational, informational, and self-education needs of children, as well as to support their formal education curriculum. I don't understand how a sex trafficking novel would support the curriculum of a 14 to 17-year-old, especially when she was only 12. At the very end, she's 13. This girl goes through so much trauma, it's not funny. Now, I spoke about how there's a secondary trauma thing that can happen to children, and 3 out of 5 children have had sexual abuse before they're the age of 18. Having them read something like this can traumatize them as well. We really need a committee like they do at the school district, because you know what's happening with the school district? There's one person in every district that knows what's hidden beneath these covers. Believe me, it's starting to get out. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes care of the people that signed up, but if there's anybody else that would like to address the assembly on any subject, you're welcome to address the assembly. Do we have anybody online, sir? We do not? Okay, one last chance. Anyone here that hasn't addressed the assembly that would like to? Okay, see no one, then audience participation is closed. We're at the consent agenda. Does the assembly have anything they want to pull? Okay, Madam Clerk.
Resolution 23-101, a resolution directing the manager to waive land use permit fees for the Willow Area Trail Committee. Resolution 23-102, a resolution reappropriating $100,000 from the Developed Timber Inventory Database Project and approving the scope of work and budget to the Wildfire Mitigation Project. And AM 23-109, approval of extension for contract 21-150B with Roger Hickle Contracting to March 30th, 2024, and additional change order authority in the amount of $234,000 for the Houston Middle School project.
Deputy Mayor.
I move to approve the consent agenda as read into the record by the clerk.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the consent agenda has been approved. There is no unfinished business. There is no veto. The next item is new business, the introductions. Madam Clerk.
Introduction for public hearing on October 17th is ordinance 23089.
Okay. Any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Did you have it? No. Okay. Oh, he has to move. Okay. Deputy Mayor.
I move to introduce the legislation as read into the record by the clerk and set the public hearing for October 17th, 2023.
Okay. Discussion? Is there any objection? Okay, hearing none, the legislation has been introduced. The next item is the vacancy report. Deputy Mayor.
I move to confirm the mayor's recommendations as follows. Local Emergency Planning Committee, Sheila Olson. Plating Board, resignation of Emmett LaFell.
Is there discussion? Is there objection? Hearing no objection, the vacancy report has been approved. There is no other new business. There are no referrals. And we are to the point for the assembly and staff and the mayor to have parting comments. I'll go online first. Assemblyperson Hale, are you still there, sir? Do you have parting comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No comment.
Okay. Assemblyperson Fonoff, do you have parting comments?
No further comments. I was really, even though I could not make it in person today to the breaking ground ceremony for the Metro Central, I still enjoyed watching it online. It was something that is very close to my heart because I have 5 kids in the school as well. And sorry I couldn't make it in person today. And that's it.
Assemblyperson Hours, have you been able to join us? Okay. Assemblyperson Benier, do you have parting comments, sir?
I do.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming, listening to the meeting and participating. And I just wanted to thank our Heavenly Father for this wonderful day, the sunshine, the beautiful fall, and to bless our valley, bless our leaders, and to help all the people that are suffering from addictions and sickness, traumas, anything like that. And just to do your will, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah. Mr. Attorney, parting comments? Okay. Assemblyperson 2, parting comments? Mr. Manager, parting comments? Madam Clerk? Deputy Mayor, parting comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay. There is no executive session, so without objection, we will adjourn at 6:50.
Is that a record? Is that a record?
It's not a record, but it was good. It's nice.
Yeah. 50-minute long. All right. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
6:19.